It started with my shoelaces coming undone for the third time in an hour. I was walking fast, too fast, down the shoulder of Highway 89 with a backpack that didn't belong to me, a phone that was dead, and a bruised rib from a fight I didn't win. The sky was already folding into night, swallowing the sun in a slow, mean kind of way. Each car that passed kicked dust into my lungs, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. I didn't even look up anymore. Then came the engine. Not like the others. Not roaring or flashing past. This one slowed. Tires crackled on gravel. My heart dropped. I kept walking. "Where are you headed, runaway?" The voice came from an open truck window. Calm. Low. Not friendly. Not threatening. Just still. I turned slowly. The truck was old. Brown paint, dented front bumper, license plate half hanging off. Inside was a man, 60s maybe, strong shoulders, weathered face, gray hair tucked behind his ears. One hand on the wheel, the other resting, relaxed, on the window edge. "I'm not a runaway," I said. My voice was hoarse. "Okay," he said. "You just walking with purpose into nowhere?" I didn't answer. He didn't press. He reached over and opened the passenger door. "It's going to be 20 degrees in an hour. You want to freeze or talk?" I hesitated, counted the odds, considered the fact that every instinct I had was screaming to keep going. But my feet were already moving. I climbed in. The door closed with a solid thunk. We drove for nearly 10 miles without a word. "You don't talk much," he said eventually. "I don't know you." He nodded. "Fair." His eyes stayed on the road. But there was something about the way he drove, like he'd been on this highway too many times before. Like he didn't care where it led anymore. After a while, he pulled into a gas station. Not a chain. One of those side-of-the-road places that sells more jerky and lotto tickets than actual fuel. He left the engine running. "You hungry?" Shook my head. He got out anyway. Came back with 2 coffees and a pack of crackers. Handed me one. "This one's black." "Figured you don't take sugar." "How would you know that?" I asked. He shrugged. "Guess?" We sat in silence for a while. Then I asked the question I'd been holding since mile 2. "Why'd you stop?" He didn't look at me. "Because you looked like no one else would." "That's not a reason." "It is for me." There was something terrifying in that. Something honest. He reached into the glove compartment and pulled out a map. A real one. Folded. Frayed edges. "Where to?" he asked. I didn't answer. He didn't ask again. That night, I fell asleep with the window cracked and the cold cutting across my cheek. But for the first time in days, I didn't dream of doors slamming or sirens or fists, just the hum of the road and a man who didn't ask my name, but kept driving anyway. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee and the low rumble of the truck's engine idling outside a dusty diner. My neck ached from sleeping crooked, and my face was creased from the truck's worn upholstery. He handed me a styrofoam cup through the open door. "It's hot. Careful." I blinked at him, groggy. "You're still here." He raised an eyebrow. "You thought I'd just leave you sleeping in the cab?" I shrugged. "Wouldn't have blamed you. Guess I'm not much for abandoning people." We ate in the diner, in a booth by the window, the kind with cracked red vinyl and a laminated menu sticky at the corners. He ordered eggs and black coffee. I got toast and orange juice. The waitress called him Darlin and didn't ask who I was. I was grateful. "You always pick up strangers?" I asked as we ate. "No. Just the ones who look like they need to disappear." I paused with a piece of toast halfway to my mouth. "That obvious?" He gave a half smile. "Not obvious. Just familiar." The way he said that made me set the toast down. I wanted to ask what he meant, but something told me not to push. Not yet. Back on the road, he drove with one hand on the wheel, the other resting by the window like before. He didn't try to fill the silence. I appreciated that. But eventually, the silence became too full. I was living with my mom and her husband, I said, out of nowhere. Until last week, he didn't look at me. Bad? Worse. That was all I said. He didn't ask for more. But something in his posture shifted, slightly, almost imperceptibly, like he was listening with more than his ears. You? I asked. You said you got out. Out of what? He kept his eyes on the road. Prison. The word landed like a thud in my chest, but he didn't say it like a confession, more like a weather report. For how long? 20 years. I didn't ask why. I couldn't. Not yet. He glanced at me. You scared? No. Should be. I shook my head. You're the first person in weeks who hasn't tried to make me feel small. We pulled over late that afternoon at a roadside motel, one of those sagging two-story places with faded paint and a buzzing neon vacancy sign. He booked 2 rooms. Didn't ask if I needed anything. Just handed me a key and said, if you need anything, I'm 2 doors down. But I couldn't stay in that room. Not alone. Not with everything finally crashing in on me. I knocked on his door. He opened it without surprise. Couldn't sleep either. I shook my head. Can I just sit? He stepped aside. I curled up in the chair across from the bed while he sat on the edge, elbows on knees, watching the muted TV with no sound. I didn't kill anyone, I said quietly. His eyes didn't leave the screen. I never asked. But I could have. I wanted to. Sometimes still do. He nodded slowly. It's not about what you do. It's about what you live with. I swallowed. And what do you live with? He turned off the TV. A face I can't forget. The room went quiet. I didn't press him. I didn't need to. I fell asleep in that chair, and when I woke up hours later, there was a blanket draped over me. He was gone. Just the soft glow of dawn leaking in through the curtains. But I wasn't scared, because for the first time, someone let me speak and didn't look away. He stayed. I found him outside the motel, leaning against the hood of the truck, cigarette between 2 fingers, the filter barely kissed by ash. He didn't turn when I walked up behind him. Didn't have to. You always smoke before sunrise? I asked. He exhaled, slow and quiet. Only when I remember who I used to be. That stopped me for a second. The breeze lifted the hem of my hoodie. I hugged it tighter around me. And who was that? He flicked the ash. Someone who thought he had all the time in the world. Someone who thought guilt was something you carried for a while, then let go of. I stepped up beside him, close enough to smell the smoke and coffee on his breath. You don't look like a monster, I said. He looked at me then. Really looked. You do? I shook my head. No. You look like someone who's been through hell and doesn't want to pretend it was anything else. He smiled, but it was more pain than joy. You've got a sharp way of seeing people. Only because no one ever looked at me long enough to teach me different. He nodded like he understood that better than I did. We didn't speak again, until the sun started burning away the mist over the road. He stubbed out the cigarette and said, We've got another 100 miles before the next state line. You riding with me or not? I climbed into the truck before he finished the sentence. We drove in silence, but this time it didn't feel empty. It felt like something building. At a gas station near the border, I sat on the curb while he filled the tank. A woman walked by with 2 little kids, and one of them looked at me the way kids look at stray animals. Cautious, curious, half afraid, to care. I used to want a daughter, he said, coming around to where I sat. I looked up. What changed? I stopped believing I deserved one. I didn't reply. I just scooted over so he could sit beside me. And he did. He pulled something from his jacket, a small faded photo, creased and weathered like a memory you fold and unfold too many times. A girl? Maybe 6 or 7. Bright smile, arms around a big dog. My niece, he said. I raised her until I couldn't. What happened? She saw me get arrested. I stared at the photo. You still talk? He shook his head. She stopped writing after the 5th year. I don't blame her. I handed it back carefully. She smiled like she loved you. She did. He tucked the photo away, and for a moment, we were just 2 people on a curb, watching cars pass like the world didn't care whether we got back in it or not. Later, in the truck, I reached over and turned off the radio. You ever think about trying again? I asked. He glanced at me. Trying what? Letting someone see the parts of you that aren't ruined. He didn't answer right away. His jaw tightened. Sometimes, he said, and sometimes I think those parts are long gone. They're not, I whispered. You saw mine before I did. That has to mean something. He didn't touch me, didn't reach for my hand. But the way he looked at me then, like I wasn't broken glass but something worth holding, I felt warmer than I had in years. We kept driving, the miles unfolding like threads, pulling us toward something neither of us could name yet. But I was done running, because for once, I didn't feel like prey. I felt like a person, and he didn't look away. We were halfway through Nebraska when I finally said it. The question had been rotting in the back of my throat since the first time he said 20 years. You killed someone, didn't you? He didn't react. No flinch. No inhale. Just kept driving like the words hadn't hit the air like a hammer. It made me angry. That calm. That stillness. I saw your name on the paperwork, I added. That motel in Kansas had a wanted database on the computer in the lobby. I wasn't looking. It just popped up. Still nothing. Just the road unraveling beneath us. I leaned forward. Say something. He finally pulled over. Gravel crunched beneath the tires as he slowed to a stop by an empty stretch of land. Just flat earth, broken fences, and sky. He turned off the engine. I did, he said. A man hurt my niece, and I didn't call the cops. I didn't wait. I made sure he'd never do it again. I swallowed hard. How old was she? 7. I blinked back, the heat rising in my eyes. And they gave you 20 years? They wanted life. But I pled out. I looked down at my hands in my lap. You're not sorry. He looked at me then. I'm sorry she saw me do it. The silence after that felt like the inside of a church. Hollow, heavy. He turned back toward the wheel. You think I'm evil now? No, I whispered. I think you did what I've dreamed about doing. Every night since I was 12. His eyes met mine in the mirror. What did he do to you? He asked. I don't want to say it out loud, I replied. You don't have to. He reached across the seat. Not to grab, not to pull, just to rest his hand open, palm up, on the console between us. I stared at it, then placed my hand in his. I'm not scared of you, I said. He nodded once. I'm scared of myself. I looked out the window. I'm scared I waited so long to leave, I said. Like the longer I stayed, the more it meant I deserved it. He didn't speak for a long time. Then he said, You didn't. We sat in the truck for what felt like hours. The road stretched ahead, long and empty, and we both knew it was time to keep driving. But something between us had changed. Now we weren't just running. We were carrying each other's truths. He didn't ask again. Not that day, not the next. But I could feel it between us, the weight of what I hadn't said, balancing precariously between confession and collapse. We crossed into Colorado, winding through gray hills like ghosts without a destination. I started to talk in pieces, not full stories, just glimpses. I used to sneak out and sleep in the laundry room. The sound of the dryer was the only thing that drowned him out. He didn't say anything, but his fingers tightened on the steering wheel. I thought if I was quiet enough, good enough, invisible enough, maybe he'd stop. The words tasted like metal, but once they started, they didn't stop. I was 17 when it happened. I waited until he was passed out. I opened the garage door and left it running. Then I went upstairs and closed my door. I waited an hour. He glanced at me, not with shock, just a quiet, haunted kind of knowing. No one questioned it. They called it an accident, said the exhaust was old, the heater must have leaked. My mom cried at the funeral. I didn't. I looked out the window. I never told anyone, not even a therapist, not even my best friend. I wasn't sure if I'd actually done it or just stopped pretending I hadn't. His voice was a low hush. You did what you had to do. I did what I could live with. He nodded. Then you understand me better than most. We stopped. That night in a forgotten town with a single neon bar and a motel with flickering vacancy signs. He booked 2 rooms again, like always. But this time, when I stepped into mine, it felt hollow. I knocked on his door with shaking hands. He opened it slowly, like he already knew I was coming. I can't sleep, I said. He moved aside. We didn't touch, not at first, just sat on the floor, backs against the bed frame. He poured us each half a shot of something warm and sharp. To ghosts, he said. To survivors, I replied, and when the silence returned, I leaned my head onto his shoulder, and he let me. That was the first night we shared a bed. Not out of lust, out of something harder, earned intimacy. I felt his heartbeat before I fell asleep. Slow, steady, real, and for the first time in years I didn't wake up screaming. We left before sunrise. No words, just motion. I sat with my feet on the dash, window cracked, morning air cutting across my cheeks. He drove like he always did, one hand on the wheel, quiet, steady. But something was different. Not heavier, just more known. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was full of things we'd finally stopped hiding. You ever think we'll stop driving? I asked. He didn't look at me. Maybe. Or maybe we just find the right place to stop. I watched the road stretch ahead, limitless and familiar. How do we know when it's the right one? He smiled faintly. When we stop feeling like we're escaping. We pulled into a town that didn't have a name on the highway sign. One gas station, one diner, a church with broken windows. The kind of place where people didn't ask questions because they had too many of their own. We got coffee. Sat on the hood of the truck in silence, the sky turning pink behind the hills. I thought I'd be alone forever, I said. Like, I didn't deserve anything else. He looked at me then. Really looked. I stopped believing I deserved anything at all, he said, until you sat in that truck. I blinked away the sting in my eyes. I don't know what this is. I just know I don't want to run anymore. He nodded. Then let's stop. It wasn't dramatic. There was no declaration, no kiss in the rain. Just 2 people sitting side by side on rusted metal, staring at a horizon that no longer felt like a threat. We didn't find peace, not exactly, but we found stillness, and stillness after everything felt like enough. We stayed in that town for a while. Got jobs, bought plants we forgot to water, slept through the night, walked without flinching. No one knew what we'd done, who we were, and for the first time, we didn't need them to, because we knew, and we stopped running, together.